Hello, writers. Have you ever bought a writing craft book someone says you just have to read?
Is it still sitting on your shelf? Have you even cracked the spine?
That's totally me.
Don't ask Renee how many craft books she owns.
Why do we keep buying these books we never read?
We all want to improve as writers, but that's hard to do alone.
That's why we started the Words to Write By podcast, to tackle these books together, chapter by chapter, and learn from their advice.
Or not. Sometimes they're wrong.
Hi, I'm Renee Nelson, former college writing instructor turned full-time writer and podcaster. After many years, I finally have a complete draft of my memoir.
And I'm Kim Smugado, author of the humorous fantasy novel Our Comeback Tour is Slaying Monsters, which is the first book in the Boy Bands and Dragons series, released by Riverfolk Publishing.
And now, on with the podcast. Welcome to another episode of Words to Write By.
Welcome.
We are now on week 6, chapter 6, technically, of the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. If you've been following us so far, you hopefully are doing all of your morning pages, and perhaps you are getting something out of them. There's a good chance you're not. I'm not sure. You can email us and let us know.
We've had a bit of a slowdown on meeting up. We're in the holiday season anyway, and, you know, it's one of those things that we always slow down in a craft book about this stage, but this was a pretty hard slowdown, I think.
Well, for me, I do not like this book, and I just want it to be over. But I think we're slowing down because we're kind of avoiding it.
We are masochists that way, and we're going to keep going.
Yes, and I might be able to convince Kim to start doing 2 chapters at a time, but so far, my efforts have been unsuccessful.
And also, we fill up the time.
I know, it's weird. There are barely any activities in this book. There's barely any prescriptive advice. You have to really, dig in. And it has created some really cool conversations.
Yeah, it's amazing how if you don't like something, it really gets into it. When I was in science journalism and I was asking people about stuff, I could get the best responses if I said, well, is it like such and such? And if I got it slightly wrong, they would give me such a good response because there was something wrong they had to fix. So maybe that's why we're having such great conversations.
It could be. Well, let's see what happens today.
Each of these chapters has a little summary or something. We haven't been reading them, but this says, Week 6. This week you tackle a major creative block, money. You are asked to really look at your own ideas around God, money, and creative abundance. The essays, book has essays?
I wouldn't have called this an essay.
We'll explore the ways in which your attitudes limit abundance and luxury in your current life. You'll be introduced to counting, a block-busting tool for clarity and use of funds. Counting.
Busting. Block busting.
Counting, it's a new technique.
Yeah, I know. We don't have checkbooks anymore, right? So people aren't keeping track on their checkbook.
This week may feel volatile.
Ooh, as opposed to week 5, week 4, week 3. All right.
So we're starting off with God. The great creator.
It's not just like the elephant in the room you don't talk about. She's painted it in neon paint. And it is just making a big old mess of the room.
I mean, so her first section is called The Great Creator. It's just too much. It's just all the time. And also there's a very interesting take she has on God. She starts off with one of her people. This is Nancy, the non-believer.
Nancy. Negative Nancy.
I'm a believer, Nancy declares. I just don't believe God gets involved with money. Although she doesn't recognize it, Nancy carries 2 self-sabotaging beliefs. She believes not only that God is good, too good to do money, but also that money is bad. Have you heard about the prosperity gospel?
Yeah, I think so. It's the rich man it has more likelihood of passing through the eye of a needle than going to heaven. They scrap that and they say, God wants you to be rich.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what this is?
I definitely think if Cheryl business about God will give you the money you need to be creative, I think that falls very strongly in that category.
All right. So all that stuff about Jesus helping poor people and all that, they just ignore it?
I don't know if they ignore it. They just assume that once you get Jesus, you won't be one of the poor people.
Okay. Wow, things are weird. There's so much weird.
We want a God that feels like a fat paycheck and a license to spend as we please.
We do? Where's it getting this? Wait, isn't the earth supposed to be inherited by the meek? You know what this reminds me of? It was really popular for a while, called The Gift.
I remember seeing it, I think.
And then there was like a whole like video, and it was essentially like you can manifest anything if you think about it enough.
Definitely that's where she's coming from.
That's really insulting. To me, I think it's very insulting. So all I had to do was just imagine having money and not going hungry.
Just imagine it enough.
The thing that bugs me is in the beginning, she says you don't have to believe in God. You can just replace the word God with good, orderly. What does the D stand for? Dimension? Anyway, I've been replacing it with process, or the writing process. And usually it works, but in this chapter, it will not. Because partly she's already quoting verse. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be added to it. Like, okay, what does that have to do with process? Seriously. Anyway, we claim our financial concerns as a way to avoid not only our art, but also our spiritual growth.
So there's two things to unpack here. First of all, there's the idea that our desire for money or our requirements for money are going to get in the way of creating art. That you're not going to get paid for your art. You're going to get paid for something else. So if you're spending too much time doing art, you're not getting paid, and therefore you're putting yourself in a bad position. A lot of people would say, I would love to do art all the time, but I have to work.
Yeah.
So this part of this chapter is talking about her refuting that by doing art, you will somehow come into money and do well. But the other thing is that her idea of God isn't necessarily religion. It says here, this week in your morning pages, write about the God you do believe in and the God you would like to believe in. For some of this means, what if God is a woman and she's on my side?
Nice.
If you are still dealing with a God consciousness that has remained unexamined since childhood, you are probably dealing with a toxic God. So in her mind, this God is not something you read about or something that exists in a fundamental way that can't be changed. Apparently, the God is kind of your end of it. What kind of God do you want? You believe in that, and that God you're believing in is going to do these great things for you.
It's magic. To me, it's like she wants magic.
Do you find it more better if you say, as opposed to her saying that she's religious, that she just believes in a bunch of magic?
Yeah. But it's insulting, right? Because those are people's beliefs and their religions, and they've been going on for a long time. And I'm just like, think it's like Santa Claus.
It's the equivalent of being a tourist in a country where you don't understand what goes on, but you think you do.
What do you mean?
It's like she's a tourist that goes to a country and she knows all about it because she's been reading about it, and it's going to all work out this particular way. But there are people that actually live there that are actually there. And so,
yeah. So she has no idea. It's the privilege paradox, right? It's like she has no idea how bad it can get if you quit your job to do your art and you expect that the universe or God is going to hook you up and help you pay your rent.
But she also doesn't have any idea when she says, well, God is this and God is that. There's a whole bunch of actual religious literature or religious theology that she's just kind of throwing out the window because it doesn't actually work for her.
Right. She's not being very clear about what God this is that she's talking about. Is it the Christian God? Is it?
It's a God that you as an artist kind of make up.
Then she needs to stop calling it God.
Well, she calls it the creator.
But she uses the word God in capital letters.
Anyway, I almost feel like this might be a little bit even more offensive to somebody that has devoted a great deal of time to believing in certain tenets of their religion. And they come forward and she's like, oh, no, just do this way.
Right. Well, it's also insulting to people who don't believe in this stuff and being told all this stuff the way she's saying to use God for everything. It's just like, I'm insulted. I am annoyed. How about this? Did you, in your morning pages, write about the God you do believe in and the God you would like to believe in?
Oh, no. We can talk about morning pages at the end of this because there are some things to be said about morning pages.
Okay, cool. So apparently we didn't do this because I didn't do it because I don't write about a God I believe in because I don't. And then the one I'd like to believe in, I do have ideas of God that I would like to believe in, but to me, it doesn't exist. So I want to believe in Santa Claus.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Man, people are going to just stop listening to us. People are going to be so offended by the shit we're saying, at least that I'm saying. What would a non-toxic God think of your creative goals? Might such a God really exist? If so, would money or your job or your lover remain your higher power?
So if you had God as your cheerleader.
She's making an assumption about her reader.
Mm-hmm.
She's assuming her reader considers money and a job and their lover a higher power. And it's rude. Maybe some people get off on that, or like maybe, there are some people that read this going, oh my God, she's right. But this book is not for people like us.
Let's give a hypothetical example. Like, let's say you hate your job. Let's say you do it because you need money. Let's say that you look at your spouse They're not that person you fell in love with 10 years ago, but, well, you got a place together, you got a mortgage. It's just easier to kind of keep going with it than to do it. And so in that space, if you are unhappy with many aspects of your life, you could use this method to be the thing that kicked you into gear and gave you the imaginary parachute to jump out of that plane that is your life.
Sure. But that could come with some serious consequences.
Yes.
And some of them you may not be able to recover from. And they probably are all financial.
Well, eventually these things all end up being something financial because we need money to buy food and to have a house and do all that other stuff.
But she's assuming that because there's this creator and if you believe in them, then you can make money with your art and you just have to take some kind of plunge and trust it. And it's like, well, that is wishful thinking. It's nice when, she was in Hollywood and had all this money. Like, I don't know how much she makes off of the royalties in this book, but probably a lot. She's doing pretty good for herself. So I think it's kind of rude to assume people can just quit their job.
She has a statement here. Creativity is not and never has been sensible. And definitely she is not being sensible in this section.
Yeah. And it's offensive, I think. Anyway, it says, God wants us to be broke if we're going to be so decadent as to want to be artists. Do we have any proof at all for these ideas about God? Here's the thing. She needs to update this book and include AI. Because AI, if there were any creative jobs out there, because there were, but they were hard to get, right? Because a lot of artists and they all want the jobs, right? Those jobs are going away.
No, what's happening is there were a lot of, not necessarily grunt, but jobs that required somebody with some artistic training to do well. And because people needed, paintings for the walls of hotels, or people needed photo spreads in magazines, or people needed something to put on a billboard. Okay, so there was all those creative jobs that paid the rent. And yes, that is very much going away. It's a question, are we going to rant about AI or are we going to rant about our God?
I don't know. I don't want to rant about either because we already did a series on AI, which you can go listen to, dear listener, if you're joining us now and you haven't listened in any other episodes. We had a whole series on AI.
Let's jump to the next section then. Let's just jump to luxury.
Luxury.
So this is a little bit different than some of the other stuff she's been bringing in. Not completely different. She's talked in the past, we've done a lot of getting back to your inner child, having a different perspective of stuff, giving yourself freedom to do certain things. And this kind of extension is just the one where you pay more money to do it.
Yeah. So pampering is if you have money or time or whatever, you have to kind of pamper yourself as an artist in certain ways, like those artist dates that you're supposed to go on by yourself, or spending time alone, or doing things that other people might think are frivolous, but they kind of feed your creative soul.
So she talks about luxury. It doesn't have to be super luxurious. There's luxury where you actually put a price tag on it. And then there's luxury of things that you allow yourself to do. Maybe you don't feel you've earned or you feel are an inconvenience to other people. She has the example of the one with the raspberries. Buying a pint of fresh raspberries, or buying a flower bouquet to put on your table. There are small things you do that make your life feel more luxurious. And in a way, they almost are going from zero to a little luxury is way more of a kick than having something already luxurious. Getting a bouquet of flowers for your main table when you don't have any flowers in the house is super luxurious. Going out and, arranging to have new flowers delivered every 2 weeks to go all around your house probably doesn't have as much of a kick.
Right. Eventually you just get used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have some luxuries, one of which is good butter. I'll spend a lot of money on good butter, not to bake with, but to just put on toast.
Good butter tastes good. After we went to Japan, we decided we'd start buying good eggs because there is a taste difference.
She says, self-care is important for an artist. I would totally agree with that. However, some of the best work I created was under duress and distress and when I'm put on the spot. So sometimes I'm not sure you need to pamper yourself. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure it's great. Because now I have the money to do it, and I am doing it. So, I get good butter. You get good eggs. What other ways do we pamper ourselves?
Going out to eat.
Buying
a latte.
Getting massages.
Buying books. Purchasing stuff on Amazon as opposed to going to the store to buy it.
Going to the more expensive store to get better produce.
Mm-hmm.
All of those. Having the time to go to a farmer's market. Yes, it's pampering, but it's also privileges that people just get for having money.
Right.
Anyway, there's a couple cool lines in here. Art requires us to empower ourselves with choice. At the most basic level, this means choosing to do self-care. It is easy to stop doing self-care. I will agree with that.
It's definitely easy when you're in bed in the morning and you've promised yourself to go out running or go to an exercise class to not do that kind of self-care. Because there's self-care that's like buying the good food and eating the good food. But there's also like the physical stuff, like doing exercise or meditating or things like that that actually require a little bit more effort on your part to get into it. But that afterwards, you're really glad you did.
Right. So she talks about what happens when you deny yourself luxury. It's one of her friends, is a world-famous artist of formidable talents. He is assured a place in history for his contributions to his field. He is sought after by younger artists and respected by older artists. Although not yet 50, he has already been singled out for Lifetime Achievement Awards. Nonetheless, this is an artist suffering in the throes of artistic anorexia. Although he continues to work, he does so at greater and greater cost to himself. Why? He sometimes wonders to himself, does his life's work now feel so much like his life's work?
One definition of work is stuff that you don't have a choice about doing.
Right. Successful writers and artists are the ones that do treat it like a job.
Right. Whenever you go to one of their talks, they say, okay, this is how I do it. This is how I write 2,000 words a day. Oh, okay. The schedule, you sit down, you do it, you don't get distracted. It does feel like the most productive artists treat it as work. But she's kind of claiming that her vision of what an artist is that they shouldn't treat it as work. It should always feel like play. It should always be fun. It should always feed your soul to sit down and do it. We talk about updating this book, and one of the things I think that really needs to update it is that there are so many more distractions right now than when she wrote it. They're so easy. There's so much stuff that has been designed to take our attention away from doing art or doing work or doing other stuff. And I think that this idea of luxury or this idea of like, giving yourself a little something extra to do has become so easy to ping your brain with stuff that you find on the internet that's very easy to get to.
Right. It's attention capitalism, attention economy. I've actually listened to a book called The Siren's Call, and it's talking about how these companies keep you stuck on your phone because there's so much evidence for it. We know how they do it. They create a slot machine in your pocket, right? Mm-hmm. That was a really good book, and I made some significant changes in my life to not use the phone.
Here's my question. So you made some changes of not using the phone. Have you found that you grab it less now?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Just the simple act of charging your phone in another room when you go to bed, at least for me, for some weird reason, I wake up and it might be like a half hour to an hour before I touch my phone. That's not the first thing I do when I wake up. It was when I first started doing that, but as time has gone on and it's been like, a month of me doing this where the phone is charged somewhere else at night, the less I want to even go near my phone. I'm almost dreading like, there's going to be emails. Boo. I try to use my computer more like I used to back in the, back in the day. I'll check my email there. I do have a few notifications set for certain people, like if you text me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're always so fast at responding to my text. That's why.
Right. I get a notification for important people. I have kept this up for so long that people, unless it's important, they know I'm not going to get back to them for a while. And it's almost like I've trained everybody to just be like, oh, Renee doesn't ever read that. And I don't. And I trained my old job that same way too. Cal Newport had this really great idea. His theory was that if it's important, they'll email you again. Like you can delete all your messages when you get back from vacation. And if it was that important, they will remind you. And you know what? He is right. I got personal emails from my dean because I ignored emails. So I didn't have to worry about anything because she would just hand it to me on a platter. And yeah, it probably annoyed her, but I didn't care. And I wasn't checking my email all the time.
So the act of not picking up your phone in the morning, you think has played into the rest of the day as well?
Yes. It makes me not want to use my phone. Like, for example, at the post office, I didn't use my phone. I just stared at the walls. Like back in the day before we had these phones. And I even noticed, I'm like, hey, I'm not on my phone. And I'm like, this is nice. You're with it. I don't think the phone affects you in the way that affects me.
No, actually, I'm taking notes over here. I'm kind of thinking about this whole setup. I need my phone by my bed because that's my alarm clock. And I'm thinking about ways that I could try your method of not picking up the phone in the morning.
I just have an alarm clock. Just use your alarm. Don't use the phone at all. Put it in another room. Here's the problem. It's not so much just having it charging next to you. It's the presence of it. We are distracted by it, right? When I'm writing or reading, I will hide it. Studies have shown that even having it with an eyesight is distracting. If you're in bed and you're going to bed, do you scroll before you go to bed?
No.
So when you set your alarm and you put it next to your bed, you are never on your phone in bed.
Well, I'll use it to read on my Kindle.
You're using your phone to read?
Oh, yeah.
Is the light adjusted for reading?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because the light from the phone, it disrupts your sleep.
I sleep pretty well.
Okay, it's bad for you. And that's why we have Kindles. Well, I don't use a Kindle. I use a Kobo. What I'm saying is, it may not happen overnight, but over time, you use your phone less. At least, I don't know why charging it in another room has done that, but it works. And then I avoid it, and I try to avoid it most of the day. And I'm always losing my phone. I have to find my phone on my computer because I drop it or put it somewhere in the house, and I don't touch it for hours.
Well, I mean, part of my issue is I do use the alarms for various things through the day. Like I have the alarm for, when we need to get out of the house in the morning, when I need to get my son up, when I need to make sure he's actually in bed.
That's fair.
There's a bunch of actual alarms that I have set throughout the day that I use my phone to remind me about.
I use my phone to listen to audiobooks. And I have to press pause all the time. It's not like I'm not touching it.
I'm just saying that I need something more complicated than a single alarm clock to wake me up in the morning.
That makes sense.
But those are all some very good things to think about.
That is pampering. To me, that is pampering your brain, not scrolling. The scrolling is the evil part. Everything's a clickbait. Everything's trying to get you to angry so that you stay on the app, and then you keep participating, and then you're just in a constant state of anger. Anyway, so you know what? She's talking about the luxury of time. I'm talking about the luxury of no phone, no smartphone. I monologued. Why don't you have stuff to say?
Well, actually, I was going to ask you because in keeping with this idea of luxuries and things that we give each other, I do honestly believe that by putting money towards your art, by making decisions about how you're going to accommodate your art, getting an office space, getting the right kind of tools or art supplies to do your art, getting away from people to do your art. I believe that those are critical elements to producing stuff. People that say, well, I had 3 kids, and I would just wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and write for 2 hours, and then I do this and all that the rest of the day. Most people don't have the fortitude and belief in themselves to do that. So I am a big proponent, especially of getting yourself away from everything else to write. And I thought this would be a great time to bring up your January plans.
Yes. Speaking of luxury, I decided that I'm going to take a month-long retreat to Portland.
You are getting a inexpensive Airbnb?
Yeah, or Verbo or whatever. Yeah, it's not that expensive. I'm bringing my cats, so my husband doesn't have to worry about it. And yes, I am privileged to do these things. I'm not going to deny that not everybody gets to do these things, and I don't expect them to be able to do them. But I am going to Portland, cheap Airbnb. I'm driving up there, so I'll have my car. I am just going to use it for all it's worth. I'm going to go to every cafe. I'm going to go to all the weird movie houses. I'm going to do all the artist dates every freaking day.
Every moment is artist date.
Every moment. I'm stuffing it all into 1 month, and then I'm going to come back. And hopefully I will be refreshed, because right now I feel like I'm turning into a blob at home.
For all that we despise this book, if to the camera were here, she'd say, yes, Renee, do that. And you came up with that idea because you were reading my book.
Or she would say, God gave you that idea.
No, I'm sure she'd say it was her book that gave you the idea.
I'm sure.
You talk about the cafes and you're going to be in a different location. You're going to be away from so much of your clutter and other things like that. You'll take some stuff, but not ton. But I listened to you talking, you have all these really delightful ideas, like the baking and stuff you're going to do, or taking out the coffee shops, or going out to movie theaters and all that. And yeah, it sounds really good.
It does sound really good, but it comes with a lot of stress because, as someone who had to deal with scarcity, I don't want to waste one single moment. There's a little bit of stress where I'm like, I cannot waste a day. I cannot turn into a blob like I am at home, because if I do, I will be so angry with myself. So I'm going to make a list of things to do. I've really got to stay on it, and I'm going to be writing. I'm going to try to be the best version of Renee.
Were you still going to do like some videos of yourself?
I was thinking of doing a baking vlog. I really like baking, as people know who've been listening to the podcast, and they go on our show notes and they see my baking. I made, what do they call it, geode cake, and it has like, sugar crystals in it. And
You sent the pictures. Everyone in my family was very impressed.
oh, did they like it?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. They're like, wow.
Cool. Yeah, it was a fun rock candy, and then I candied pears that were around the cake with the gold trim. I could do a baking vlog. And then I thought, I don't have to actually put it on YouTube yet. I could just do it for the month and then send it to friends, and then they can tell me whether it's good or not. So I'm like, okay, that gives me permission to do it and not have to make it perfect. And then I can see if that would be fun or not.
Are you planning on doing writing during this time too?
Yes.
Okay, so what are you planning? Are you planning on the screenplay you're working on? Or?
I am planning on doing the screenplay, but I want to just get a draft done and not look at it. I'm going to start outlining my novel. And I know this is a lot of stuff. I'm going to pick up that memoir that I put away, and I'm going to read it one last time now that it's been a few months. So this is the time. Every day, I have a couple of memoirs that I really like. I'm going to read every day. I'm going to read a chapter, and then I'm going to read one of my chapters and see what kinds of things I can do. And that's going to be the last time I look at that dang book, and then it's going to start going to...
So do you think you're going to have like week 1 is the memoir, and week 2 is the screenplay, and week 4? So like basically you're going to give yourself 1 week to do the stuff, and then that sounds good because a bit of structure, because it's also a lot of free form space. 'Cause there's nobody else you've got obligations to.
I have nobody else but my cats. And that's the point. The point is that I'm alone, at least, I think you might come visit me, right?
I might come visit, yeah.
Yeah. Also, my husband's going to come visit me. It's not like I'm going to be completely alone, but I only have myself in a place that's very inspiring and very fun. I'm even going to sign up for some workout classes every day because it's New Year. New Year's resolutions actually work on me. So there's all this science that says they don't. They actually work on me.
We'll definitely have to check in. We'll hopefully get a couple podcasts in before you get done. Somebody will do a podcast while you're there. I think that was more interesting than pretty much anything else in this section.
There were some quotes in here. One of them was, for many block creatives, it takes a little work to even imagine ourselves having luxury. Luxury is a learned practice for most of us. Blocked creatives are often the Cinderellas of the world, focused on others at the expense of ourselves. We may even be threatened by the idea of spoiling ourselves for once. I get that. You deny yourself some pleasures, usually for money. It's like, oh, I'll go for the cheaper option, right? The butter, does it really matter? But as a creative, I would say that it is easy to go, you know what? I have other more important things to do today that are more important than my art. And it's almost like you're falling on the sword, like that martyrdom, like, oh, I can't do my art today. I'm so busy doing something else. And that's a real thing. But also it's important to note that some people are just very busy people who have to work and they don't have the time.
There's two things there. There's the I'm going to go do work as opposed to make art because I need to make money. But this is also talking about here with the Cinderellas, like, will you give yourself the allowance to go and do this other thing, or to buy this thing, or to stop and grab something? Sometimes I'll say I just don't need that because there's also an obligation once you get other stuff. I like having flowers and I enjoy like picking them out, putting them together, but that's another 5-10 minutes after I get done with the grocery shopping. And I just don't want to do that. Or I'll say I want to buy some clothing, but that means I have to go to the store. And I feel like sometimes the time involved to do something is enough that I don't want to give that up to get something else, even though 9 times out of 10 I waste that time anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That's an interesting idea. Like the whole not giving yourself stuff and then kind of like settling to not giving yourself stuff, buying something less expensive every time. Or like not buying flowers, to basically make the decision that you are going to go out and do this nice thing for yourself. Even though when you're actually in the act of it, you don't really feel like it's that important. It's really easy to impulse stuff. There's no barrier. But what she's talking about here is that act of saying, no, I'm going to treat myself to this nicer thing. When I've been so good at basically cutting back, I'm going to buy a latte when I go to the coffee shop as opposed to a coffee. And you do that so often that you don't ever see yourself wanting to get that latte. So the question is, if you make that step up and get the latte, is it going to make a difference?
I don't know if people need those things or not to be creative. What I consider a luxury might just be off or not exactly what she's thinking. I'm not sure. To me, a cappuccino might be a luxury for somebody and that they need that to be creative, and good for them. I don't need my coffee is the cheapest coffee in the galaxy. I don't care. Just don't care about those things. And I don't need fancy. But I did last year pay money for office space to work on finishing my memoir. And to me, that was luxury.
Right. But like the little things, or like you go to thrift shopping.
Oh, yes. That's my way of just chilling out.
Right. And so maybe at some point, it was because the regular stores were really, it's more expensive and it's often just good stuff and you enjoy the whole searching stuff out. So it is definitely a pastime for you. But the question is, like, you don't actually need the stuff in your house.
No, mostly no. I did need a mandolin in order to make the pears, right? Because I tried doing the knife and it didn't come out very good. So I went to Goodwill and I bought a mandolin. I technically need, now I don't really need one, but yes.
Or like you often like go to, you have a lot of beautiful like little crafty stuff in your house, like pictures like for Halloween or for Thanksgiving. You have Christmas, you have little artwork that comes out and you rearrange your artwork because you get new artwork. One of the luxuries you give yourself is that when you're out at a craft fair or something, you see something you like.
I lean into fun as much as possible. I think that's just part of my personality. I don't know how to describe how poor I was, but man, I was at one point in my life, I was so extremely poor. I did not have money for food. And it took a long time for give myself permission when I started, when I graduated college and I started working. I had to give myself permission to buy raspberries. I remember I bought strawberries. I was like, I never bought strawberries because if you buy strawberries and you have roommates, you're only going to get a few strawberries. And I'm not going to spend $2.99 on strawberries if I'm going to get 2 of them. And then it occurred to me one day in the supermarket, I was like, wait a minute. If I buy those strawberries, I'm going to eat them all. Like those are all going to be mine. So I bought them and I brought them home. I ate that whole damn thing of strawberries in one sitting. And then I went to the store again and I got myself a watermelon. I ate the whole thing all by myself. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Once I started doing things like that, it was like, life is wonderful. I could go, to me, luxury was going to the thrift store. I can buy anything I want. I mean, I still loved going to a thrift store, but being able to just go to a thrift store and buy anything you want, to me is huge. It's like, I could buy that outfit. I could buy this and this and this. Now I could technically buy the outfit anywhere. I could go to TJ Maxx. I could go to Macy's. I could go anywhere to buy those outfits. And I don't. Because I just don't want to.
Well, the question is, when you went from that stage where suddenly you were allowing yourself to buy luxury and to buy raspberries and strawberries and watermelons and like buy stuff from the thrift store, when you gave yourself permission to do that kind of fun stuff, do you feel like it changed you?
I don't know. You know what it did? It made me think I had all of these standards in my head and opinions about things. And I realized if you have money, you can actually act on those opinions and do those things. And they don't just come from your behavior. Your money is your behavior. And so I made sure that, my mother was an artist. I appreciate art. I love art. So I would buy art. I do. I buy art. Actually, one of the first big purchase I ever made when I got a job was a car. I bought a Versa because I had to get to work, but the luxury item was a painting. I made payments. It was Carmel, but it wasn't in a gallery. And I met him on the street. I went into his studio. I had someone with me, so it wasn't dangerous. And he was living in this apartment with like 4 other artists. They were living the life, having fun. I'm like, hell, awesome. And I looked up and there was this oil painting and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And he told me the price. I was like, holy crap. He goes, but I'll do payments. And I was like, okay. He gave me the painting and I gave him $100. And then every month for, I don't know, like 8 months or whatever, I gave him $100 and I got this painting. Ever since then, I go and I buy artwork.
Going back to kind of where Renee was at that stage, when you started allowing yourself to have luxuries, when you started like buying art, do you feel that made you different inside? That made you have a different approach to creativity?
I guess it helped me display my creativity more.
Oh, that's interesting. Then that is actually something that goes along with luxury. Like if you're someone that buys flowers and you have fresh flowers, people notice that. If you're someone that spends more money on maybe a bit apparel, you notice that. If you're someone that's sitting in a coffee shop, you notice. Like it's a very outward sign of being an artist. And sometimes that kind of pushes people. But also that can also push you to just looking like an artist.
When you walked into my house, would you think I was an artist?
I would not be surprised to find out that you were an artist. You are definitely actively putting art up on your wall.
Yes. We're changing it up. I painted my walls. It took your color. That was great. You do the same thing. Her house is gorgeous. I love it. She picks these very bold colors. The way she redid her bedroom, like, it's amazing. If you want to see clips of it, you got to come to our process group, which meets every Wednesday.
Oh, yes, our process group. We didn't bring that in yet. So
tell us about our process group, Kim.
Our process group is a get-together on Zoom. You can find the links on our webpage or meetup.com. It is Words to Write by Process Group. We get together at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we talk about our process. We talk about stuff that's going well or not going well. We talk about changes we've made to our art. I mean, some people have been coming long enough that we had a conversation last time where we were discussing someone's book that when they started coming to the process group, they were still trying to figure out how to write this book because they'd had some issues going on and they were not writing the way they used to write. And now they're not editing in the way they used to edit. So it's a long-term thing. It's way more moving than this book here.
Anyway, so she talks about counting, which is like balancing your checkbook, as if that's like something people didn't do.
So a checkbook was back before you could just pay with your phone or your watch. You pulled out a sheet of paper and you wrote. People used to keep track and you see how much.
Each day, date a page and count what you bought, what you spent, where your money went, whether it was for groceries, luncheon or dinner, a cab ride, subway fares, or a loan to your brother. Be meticulous, be thorough, and be non-judgmental. This is an exercise in self-observation. It will teach you what you value in terms of your spending.
We fritter away cash on things we don't cherish and deny ourselves the things that we do. In a way, I think keeping track of that, often people recommend this sort of thing because that will stop you from buying stuff or make you be more frugal because you're seeing how much money you're spending.
But this is, you're not spending the stuff on yourself.
So this does, in a way, feel a little counter to everything that she's been saying before, which is like, God will provide the money for you. Go and spend on luxury stuff. Now keep track of everything you spend in a day. One or the other. I don't know. I think the idea here is that you realize how much money you're wasting on stuff you don't care about. So you stop spending on that, and then you have more money to spend things on you do care about.
Well, then there's this exercise, which I thought was pretty fun.
Filled it all out. I kind of gave up at a certain point.
Okay, well, money madness and exercise. Complete the following phrases. The first one is, people with money are blank.
I wrote rich.
Yes, Kim. Yes, they are. Wow. What an observation.
What did you write?
I wrote people, oh God, this is awful. People with money are clueless to the reality of the world, which makes them pariahs.
Okay, these exercises are too good. Money makes people
greedy and morally loose.
I wrote happy.
Okay. I'd have more money if
I got a job.
I'd have more money if I didn't buy crafts.
Then I don't know. I gave up. I gave up writing at that point. Any other good ones that you?
My dad thought money was achievable through conning people. In my family, money caused serious avenues of abuse. Money equals despair for those who can't access it. Let's see. If I could afford it, I'd start a business. If I had some money, I'd send it to my financial advisor to invest. Money causes pain. Money is a fucked up concept. Do you have any good ones?
No, I gave up at a certain point.
Oh.
But the first ones, again, what is this supposed to accomplish?
I have zero idea. I do not know. I just know that I have really negative views about money.
That is good exercise to show that. But and then what do you do?
Well, so it did make me realize that it's not money. It's the fear of losing it that stops me from investing in luxuries. That is why I don't do it, or that's why I still go to thrift stores and all this. I do have enough money to start a baking business if I so please. I do have money to hire a very expensive editor to go through my work. I'm not going to do that. I could buy the house that I want. I'm not going to do it because if I do, there's a chance I could lose the money. And then, my biggest fear is being homeless. So the chances of that happening are very, very slim. But people with money are. It should be people who are not afraid of losing their wealth are. That to me would have been a better statement. If I weren't so cheap, I'd blank. How about if I weren't so scared of losing money, I would. And that I think is, it made me realize that I'm just afraid that of taking leaps with money and then losing it. That would be awful. You know what I mean?
No, I think that's a very normal response to money. Even people that are really wealthy, people that spend their entire time making money, are very loath to lose it because that's where that's what they've established themselves as. They are people that make money and they've made this amount of money. And to lose that money, even if they're, a billionaire that loses half their money, is still ungodly rich. And yet they're going to feel really bad.
Right.
And they're going to do a lot of stuff so they don't lose money. It's a very complicated concept and way that we live our lives that is not addressed in a book like this.
She could have done those things, but did she? No.
That would have been more work. Do you want to go to any of the tasks? I do have one task.
Do the tasks. So there's lots of fun well, I don't know if they'd say fun, but there's lots of tasks for this week.
So I like number 1. Mm-hmm. Natural abundance. 5 pretty or interesting rocks. I enjoy this exercise partly because rocks can be carried in pockets, fingered in business meetings. They can be small, consistent reminders or created consciousness. So the idea is for people out there that, the idea of stopping and seeing a pretty rock and picking it up. So this is the idea of a task. And all I can say is...
Oh, snap. Did you put those in your rock tumbler? Those are gorgeous. Damn it. Is this jade?
I think so. Anyway.
Did you find this on the ground?
Oh, yeah. These are all beach rocks.
Holy shit.
So this is one of those things where I look at this book and say, I don't need it because I already do it.
You found this at the beach.
Yeah.
I am holding, dear listener, jade. Nice jade.
I don't know if that one's jade. This one probably is.
It's so, it's that milky look.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I didn't know. Wow. Okay, so I have a few. I'm a lucky person, and I have a few of these beautiful rocks in jewelry form that Kim has made for me, and I wear them all the time. Did you fix your rock tumbler?
Not yet. I need to do it.
When we did the podcast, I could hear it roaring in the closet. It was really cute.
I think I used to turn it off. So I realized, actually, these are really nice worry stones, and I think I'm going to, this one here is a great worry stone. I think I should have this on my, maybe this is some of the distraction from not picking up the phone. I should pick up the worry stone instead.
Scroll the worry stone.
Yeah. Do you want one?
You want to give me one of your stones?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Positive. I got so many. That's the other problem is that I've got so many rocks.
Well, I don't want to take your jade because this needs to be a necklace.
Okay.
Jade should be like a big old fat statement piece. So I'm not going to do that. This is a weird kidney stone. It reminds me of mid-century modern pools. Mm-hmm. I think I like this one. Is this one okay?
Absolutely.
It's got these cool like pinks. Oh, man. Kim, I swear, you need to open a shop. That's what I'm saying. Yes. So Kim already does this. Pick 5 flowers or leaves. Nah.
We have so many flowers and leaves, not leaves or pine cones or whatever. Like, the problem is we pick up all this stuff anyway. So it's not like, okay, right. Give me something actually that's a challenge.
And then number 4, creation. Bake something.
Yeah. Like Renee needs to have one of those.
Yeah. I made something last night. I made Kim a Zuckertorte. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, Austrian food. I already do that. Creativity does not always have to involve a capital A art. Very often, the act of cooking something can help you cook something up in another creative mode. Does that work for you, Kim?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, everything takes time. And I love cooking, and I love all this. I love these elements that fulfill my life. But the question is, does spending time with these aspects actually help me create more when I sit down the pages? Does it make me more efficient when I'm writing? Does it make me clear away more time for my writing? And I'm not quite sure. If there's a connection I haven't quite figured out. That's why I'm really interested with you and this trip where you are going to be giving yourself luxuries. Not expensive luxuries necessarily, but you're going to be spending a month of really just giving yourself things that you wouldn't normally give. And I'm curious to know if that comes back and makes you more creative, that makes you more engaged in your writing, that makes you make more time for your writing.
Planning this and thinking of it and trying to find the place to rent, it did make me more creative and productive. And I wondered why. And I think it's because I have hope. And I didn't realize I didn't have hope until I started doing this and going, whoa, why am I all of a sudden getting all this creative energy? And I don't have hope. I feel like I'm melting under the couch at home because I have no hope, because I hate Santa Clara, because there's nothing to do there and it's not entertaining. And because we have all the entertainment at our fingertips that we can have any time of day, that just, it's an overabundance of luxury. It's not the kind of luxury that gets me off. It doesn't work for me. I need to be out in a community, walking around, looking at stores, looking at art, and we just don't have any of that where I live. Now I suddenly have hope. I know that in a few weeks I'm going to have hope, and I got to make sure that I do it.
Yes.
And I think it probably has something to do with, moving a lot as a kid. It never really turned out great when we'd move there, but I don't have to move there. I could just visit for a month. There was one other one. Was there any others that you wanted to discuss here?
No, there's the other one.
Number 7, it says reread the basic principles on page 3. Do this once daily. And it says read an artist's prayer. Yours from week 4. So from a couple episodes ago, we talked about the artist's prayer in her thing where, you make some prayer or something to the gods and it's supposed to hook you up. Well, she's not the only one who had this idea. And I listened to a podcast recently. It reminded me of that guy who wrote The War of Art. Stephen Pressfield. Well, he's still alive. And he was on the Huberman podcast. I listened to it because I liked that book. And he reminded me that he has an artist's prayer that comes from the Iliad. Homer, or Ovid, and this was what they did back then, before they would do their song, their verse of the story that they were going to do, they would do a prayer to one of the muses. Stephen Pressfield, before he starts writing, every day he reads his prayer, which is to one of the Greek muses. Maybe I should find something like that. So I looked it up and I found one of the muses. There's like, what?
7 or 9.
And I looked up one that wasn't the one he uses. I thought that would be fun to find something that you would read before you would start. It's like it would activate your brain, know? You sit down to write, you read it, and you could read it out loud or whatever. It could be a poem. It could be, to one of the Greek muses. It could be whatever. So you're invoking whatever it is for yourself. I'm not really believing in a higher power. I'm not sure what it is, but it does seem like something that would be good for your brain.
Yeah. So I read this chapter and I'm like, darn, not this, not that. And then we sit down and have a conversation like, that's not actually, it definitely sparks some ideas. I like that idea. I think I'm going to try that one.
Yeah. So maybe in the next time we meet, we could share them. But we also need now to talk about morning pages.
Oh, yes.
It's the check-in time.
I've stopped doing morning pages.
She's given up, dear listener.
Here's my issue.
When did that happen?
About a week or two ago. So, the problem was I was doing the morning pages, and the idea is you throw them away. They're just off the top of your head. And what I found was that I would get done doing 3 pages of morning pages, and that was great. But then, I'd have to start something else. That's when I was likely to turn away from stuff. There wasn't anything that actually launched me into doing something creative. It was almost like a stop, because I wasn't looking back at it. So I got myself a different notebook. And that one, my morning pages would actually go into what I was planning on writing for the day. Actually, I'd do a little bit of sketching, but writing, but then I'd actually force myself to write about what I was going to do. And I was going to use that. And I referenced that book, or I was continuing to write alongside. And that actually felt more connected. Then once I started doing that, I stopped doing a single 3 pages. So I need to step back and take a look at that too. But once you start falling off, you fall off completely. Like she said, like an alcoholic,
Yeah, you fall off the wagon. Yeah. So you've fallen off the morning pages wagon, but you've kind of adopted something else that is more useful.
Yes.
To you, that you've discovered they do every day, right?
I'm going to try to. My problem is when I stop requiring myself to do these things, it's easy just to stop, period. And I'm definitely falling into that category. We're getting close to the Christmas season too, so there's all that stuff as well. It's
Everything gets forgiven during the Christmas season.
But I'm going to say, trying to keep still doing 3 pages, looking at some of the thoughts you had about the phone usage, and the finding some sort of prayer or poem to start the writing session with. I think hold me to that next time we have a talk.
Okay.
How about you? Morning pages?
I don't like them. You know what I found myself doing? I found myself complaining. I found myself writing about, well, why am I not writing today? Why am I not being creative? And it just put me in a horrible, funky mood.
Yeah.
This is not working for me. The stream of consciousness writing is too easy. I actually spent a long time doing it in school. Like when you're a writing major, they do that. That's part of the process, and it just doesn't hold its magic like it used to.
And I suppose also the stream of consciousness is to pull some stuff out you can use later on too, right? I mean, it's not just meant to be filling up 3 pages.
Right. And my brain already does these things. I already do them. But you know, the one thing I don't do, which I probably should use the morning pages for, is to just get off my ass. I don't think it should be necessarily stream of consciousness. It should be something that's useful, like the thing you created.
Yeah. I need to get writing and everything. A lot of these things are stuff that actually allows me not to get writing.
Yeah.
Because I'm so busy trying to find my artist that I'm not actually getting work done.
Hopefully we had some fun discussions. We never know until Kim does her magic.
Yeah. I mean, man, we're at 6. We are halfway through this book.
Can we start doing the chapters?
The problem is this fills up the time.
It does fill up the time. There's enough to complain about.
And with that, thank you guys so much for listening. Come to our process group.
Yes, come to our process group, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You can go to Meetup, type in Words to Write by Podcast Process Group, or you can go to our website, and there's a big banner on the front page. You just click on it, and it will take you to the Meetup site.
And with that, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Words to Write By is produced by Renee Nelson and Kim Smiga Adam. Our theme music is Roll Back the Carpet by Cool Cat Music. Have a great day.
Then I'll never do it because I'll do something else. I'll eat cake. I'll bake. Baking is fun until you have to feed 65 people.